You thought August was a big month for new Pokémon announcements? You ain't seen nothing yet. Enter September. September is the 9th month of the year, and the month right after August, and it just so happens that this September, a veritable wealth of new Pokémon info has been dropped all over the place haphazardly, and now it's my job to clean up the mess. Let's work backwards from the most recent stuff to the info drops towards the beginning of the month.
First of all, there's been a new Pokémon discovered in the Paldea region. It's called Wiglet, and it looks like Diglett, but it's water type, which is really kind of cool, because I always like seeing when Pokémon share biological traits that are similar to each other. I'd like to think that these two Pokémon are biologically related, and I don't know, it's just really cool. It's Diglett, but it's water, and it's Wiglet, and yeah. Also, it's been revealed that there was a collaboration song between Ed Sheeran and the Pokémon Company, and it's called Celestial, and it is going to actually be featured in Pokémon Scarlet and Violet. Honestly, I am not one to listen to Ed Sheeran on my own, but this is going to actually increase the entertainment value of this game even more, because I don't know about you, but I love when Pokemon has cheesy pop music in it to represent the culture of the world. I haven't listened to the song yet. In fact, I won't until I hear it in the game, because I feel like that would be the best way to experience it. But I'm looking forward to this in an odd way.
So the most recent development in Scarlet and Violet comes from the drama department. You know, the one that works overtime among the Pokemon fanbase. Subjects like leaks, rumors, and other stuff that nobody outside of a fandom gives two mucks about. And this is something that I just talked about. I thought that the Kitten Krista story I talked about was just an isolated incident of drama, but apparently it has completely spilled over into the speculation about the most recent games. Will preventative measures be put in place against hardcore players? What kind of difficult challenges can hardcore players expect after they clear the main game? And most importantly, how much content are they purposely withholding from the main game to include in future paid DLC updates? Well, first, my own 2 cents. I'm not claiming to know any insider info, but I think it's important to keep in mind that Nintendo Minute was a super official show. It felt less corporate and ad-like than the actual advertising pushes the company would do, but it was still advertising. Super Smash Bros. Is a major Nintendo series, and it was meant to be more approachable than a lot of other fighting games. Imagine if Smash Ultimate's marketing was dedicated to the series' most hardcore player base. It wouldn't be. That's my point. They really didn't like showing Pokemon a certain way, and wanted to avoid it at all costs. Now, of course, I don't agree with that sentiment. In fact, I still stand by everything I said in that last video about how fucking stupid and out of touch that mindset is. If anything, a game would be better received if it appealed to both extremes of the hardcore and casual audiences. I mean, isn't that the fucking reason Pokemon got popular in the first place? But, regardless, that could have just been an advertising decision. Just because they didn't want to allow people advertising Pokemon games to do Nuzlockes didn't mean that they care at all what us players do once we buy the game. Right? Right? Well, apparently someone on the in-crowd of the Pokemon fandom is claiming that the Pokemon Company has since stated exactly what I was saying. This is the founder of Cerebi.net, one of the biggest Pokemon fan sites. He tweeted this. But, and I'm sorry to say this, no sources are cited. I don't know how reliable this info is. I'm not calling Joe Merrick a liar. I know he has good intentions, but call me out of touch myself. I don't know what connections he does or doesn't have with the Pokemon Company. I do see him as a good starting point for doing research, and honestly, seeing his tweet actually does give me hope. But this is all speculation. I'm still buying Scarlet and Violet. Who cares? I'm a simple-minded consumer who spends money on the colorful Monster Ball game. So, about post-game and other stuff, well, I'm not a fan of leaks in general with games like this. They could be real or not real, and there's no point in me caring because the games aren't out yet. I'm not going to pass judgment on anything until it's been either officially shown or until the freaking game actually comes out. On Tuesday, Nintendo hosted another Nintendo Direct presentation, seemingly out of nowhere. They didn't hype this thing up the week or so leading up to it, they just said they were having one, and then on Tuesday they had one. This Direct was actually pretty good. Obviously, the highlight for everyone was showing the next Zelda game again, this time with an actual title. For me, that's all I needed. I know the title of the game, and now I can just avoid spoiling anything about it until it comes out. And yes, there's a release date now, but knowing how hyped this game is, I won't be surprised if it gets delayed one last time. They announced Pikmin 4, which to be honest was one of the last things I was expecting, considering Pikmin is probably one of Nintendo's least popular franchises. I was almost certain if Pikmin ever came back, it would be a remaster of the first two games. There is a remaster coming to Switch, however, and that is Kirby's Return to Dreamland. This I saw coming even less, considering the other Kirby game that recently came out. I'm excited for this. Forgotten Land was a phenomenal game, and as someone who until then had only beaten a few other Kirby games, I've been eager to check out what I've missed out on. The game Tunic is finally coming to the Switch, and this will be a day one must-have. And are you kidding me? I thought I'd never see GoldenEye ever released again. So, why am I bringing up this Direct? Well, it just so happens to contain pretty big Pokémon news. That's right. Both Pokémon Stadium 1 and 2 are being released on the Nintendo 64 app. I've complained before about how with the 3DS being a dead console, the first two generations of Pokémon are being killed off with it. Well, that isn't changing for the time being, but the Stadium games are an important part of the series' legacy, and them becoming playable in some way is exciting news to me. One of the first things I saw being discussed when this happened was the fate of the Game Boy-centric features. For a few minutes I started daydreaming about, what if they just included Gens 1 and 2 inside these games, since after all, they were playable in the originals with an accessory. Well, maybe I'll be blindsided by that actually happening, but being the rational pessimist I am, I doubt it. But there still is a possibility. There have been supposed reports of Nintendo testing N64 and Game Boy compatibility earlier this year. But regardless, there's still a lot to be excited about. There is single-player content in these games. Only the core focus of the game is not traveling, but instead competing in tournaments. Almost more akin to what takes place in the world of the Pokémon anime. But it's too soon to get too excited. This is happening in 2023. The last time any new info dropped about Scarlet and Violet, it was more of a small bonus to what was already shown in the big presentation at the beginning of August. Well, it's been a month, believe it or not. And now, we've got another bigger, lengthier trailer, and with it, more new official info, as well as some smaller side announcements that came with it. But first, be sure to follow my podcast either on YouTube or Apple Podcasts. I'll try to make it available in more places soon. It's called Shiny Hunt. If you just can't get enough Scarlet and Violet anticipation, be sure to head over there. A new episode will be out by the end of this weekend. And with that, let's begin. Of course, the series is called Pokémon, the game is called Pokémon, so let's start with the new Pokémon. First, there's Giraffe-eye? How do I pronounce this Pokemon's name? Who was shown off in its own trailer. Talk about getting the red carpet treatment. What's funny is the look of it really didn't do much for me at first, but its animations really sell it. This is not what I think of visually when I think Pokemon. This creature has a very abstract look to it, but it has so much personality when it's seen walking around, and I have a feeling this normal poison type is going to fit in really well in the overworld, especially if it shows up at night. Next is the 2 version exclusives, Amarogue and Ceruledge. Oh man, I really was thinking of making my first run through these new games beyond Scarlet, especially because we already know that'll be the game Larvitar is exclusive to, and I have a particular attachment to Larvitar and its Evos. But I like Ceruledge so much more, both in its design and typing, than its alternative, that I am considering jumping ship to Violet permanently for my first playthrough. I mean, Larvitar's version exclusive counterpart is Bagon, who evolves into a badass dragon, and I've admittedly spent less time training dragon types over the years, so maybe Violet is the game for me. Then there's Klawf, a crab-like Pokemon. It's got a round body and bristles on certain parts of it. Actually, I'm happy to see this one because, contrary to popular opinion, it is really fun to have more than one Pokemon resembling the same thing, in this case, crabs. I can't wait to pair up one of these with a Kingler, a Crawdaunt, and a Clawitzer, and a Crab Brawler, and do some post-game battle content with a team of crab Pokemon. So, those are the new Pokemon. How about we recap every new Pokemon shown so far in total? Of course, first we got the 3 starter Pokemon, Sprigatito, still my favorite with its indistinguishable mixture of cat and dog appearance, Fuecoco, and Quaxly, who, let me just get this out there, went from being my least favorite to second favorite of the 2. I actually plan on picking Quaxly on my second game. There's Pawmi, an electric type, Smoliv, a Pokemon that I will definitely give a spot on my team, especially if it has any good Evos, Lechonk, a Pokemon I am very fond of for many reasons, and of course, Koraidon and Miraidon are 2 new legendary representatives, and Titan, a new ice type, and Fido. Still funny. The new regional Wooper, and lastly, Silazar. There, we're all caught up. Nintendo is also producing a special edition of the Switch OLED based on Scarlet and Violet. However, I can't help but be a little disappointed in the dock not being fully colored. Still cool design though. So now, for the number 1 reason why I'm talking about Scarlet and Violet again, the new trailer. Honestly, there's a lot of good stuff here. It's neat to see the games in action a little more beyond the initial PR hype shots we got last time. Although I will say they picked the right order to do everything. This trailer has just as much substance as before, but if they showed this one first a month ago, I would have been way less impressed. This trailer has less of the running around stuff and more of the RPG stuff, but that's beside the point. We now know more about the 3 separate story paths that the stuff from a month ago mentioned. Okay, so one of the paths is based around the new group of antagonists this generation, Team Star. They're basically the rebellious assholes from the academy you're at, and play by their own rules, and they've set up their own bases and stuff. Now that big flashy vehicle seen in the earlier trailer makes sense. That's the ride of the head of the group. I like this direction they're taking. After a while in this series, having a villainous team that wants to accomplish something on a worldwide scale gets kind of old and predictable. Battling a band of troublemakers somehow interests me more than stopping the end of time and space as we know it. Nothing wrong with apocalyptic ambitions or anything, it's just that we already did that all the way back in Diamond and Pearl. It's time for something new. The Path of Legends seems to be the more open-ended, free-roaming, wilderness-traveling story of the 3. You're supposedly investigating some phenomenon in the wild alongside an accomplished upperclassman, and according to this trailer, involves the new Pokemon Klawf? But time will tell what the story really is, but this will probably be the one most suited towards those who like to focus on catching new Pokemon as they encounter them in the older games. That playstyle is what I'm talking about. And lastly, of course, there's the Gym Challenge. I'm happy that despite trying to change things up, these games will still have gyms to challenge, which has always been my favorite part of the series. I like having regularly occurring trials to test myself and my team as I go, and the whole gym arc in every game has been something I can identify with due to my own real-life experiences. I don't know, but the Academy thing, the vibe Team Star gives me, this whole game is starting to give me Pokémon Summer Camp vibes. It reminds me of those anime episodes in Diamond and Pearl where all the characters attend a summer camp and just do stuff. Ash stops going for the next gym badge, Dawn stops going for contests, and Jesse, James, and Meowth spend some time away from their ambitions to rise the ranks of Team Rocket. Scarlet and Violet are looking to be a huge dose of cozy escapism, and I can't wait to spend some time in Paldea, away from all the noise of the real world. Oh yeah, and there's a new system called Let's Go. As detailed on the official game website, this is a fancy name for essentially having a Pokémon follow along. Done before, obviously, in the series, but that follower Pokémon can fight auto battles. So, in other words, gain you some EXP and other stuff without constantly having to stop and battle manually. Apparently, this allows for multitasking. Looking forward to seeing how this affects my gameplay. This seems at least a little more in-depth than doing this in Legends Arceus. I'd like to say this is the last time I have to cover new breaking Scarlet and Violet news, but knowing how much promotion new Pokémon games generally get, I doubt this is going to be the last we'll hear about them before they come out. I'll try to be there every time new info drops, but hopefully in the meantime, I'll be able to finally finish getting the tale of me playing through Sapphire version with just a Breloom. Oh, also stay tuned, I've got a huge thing planned for the 8 days leading up to the Gen 9 launch. You'll want to be there. Music, burgers, beer, Bidoof. Everything you need to have a fun time.